Welcome to the At Bat Baseball Podcast presented by War Media, where we give you our thoughts on the latest Chicago baseball news and as well as take a trip around the league. I am Saul Rodriguez along with Miles Porter. How was your week, man? How you doing?
Doing good. Officially graduated now, so I'm happy about that.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Enjoying
sir.
another interesting week of baseball.
Oh yeah. No, you're gonna be a graduated fan now watching baseball. Like a little, you gotta have a little patch. You know what I'm saying? Everywhere you
Yeah,
go.
exactly. Yeah, I can watch a game without worrying about a paper for the
Yeah,
first time.
yeah, right. Oh, yeah, that must be great. Us, I'm still, I'm still a student, so I'll get there soon, man. And
You're gonna
I
get there,
see
man.
I see your smiles a little special this time, this episode, man. I
Yeah,
can't wait to
yeah,
get
yeah.
there. I'll meet you there. I'll meet you there. You don't see, see me right now.
Yeah, no, you.
It's halfway, 3/4 of the way there.
I'll see you at the top. I'll see you at the top. It
Yeah,
gets bigger the closer you get.
yeah. I see the light. I see the light.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the Cubs saw the light this last week when they played the White Sox because that was tough. We're gonna start off with the Crosstown Classic. Obviously, last week I know I talked about at least maybe being a split. I thought because it was gonna be at Wrigley. I thought the Cubs could steal one, but man, White Sox, their pitching got it done. They
Yeah.
won. They won Game 1, 3-1 in the rain. Kopech, he pitched well, even though he said it himself. He thought he could have pitched better, which he's that good. I think he could. And in the second game, White Sox hold on for a 4-3 win. Miles, what are your overall thoughts on the series? I mean, it could have gone either way. Obviously, those two games. I know the first one, it being messy and stuff with the weather and stuff, but yeah, like what are your overall thoughts in that series and what the Cubs could have done differently?
So as I'm watching both of those games, really the Cubs just weren't really in sync offensively. Wasn't really a lot of offensive production, therefore it was hard for them to build any sort of momentum against the Sox, who pretty much came into Wrigley with that energy. Pretty much had a game plan with dominant pitching, and I wouldn't even say the Sox blew them out offensively. They just had some great timely hits, played a little small ball here and there, did put some over the wall. But the Cubs, offensively just didn't, they weren't able to compete with them. And, there's only so much that the pitching can really do. Kind of been the theme of this Cubs team where offensively they have a lot of holes and they have a lot of things to address. And I think, that series is a big example of how much the Cubs really do need to improve as a team offensively. Pitching wise, I'm really not mad at what I saw. But offensively, we got to be better.
Yeah, and we'll get to each team separately and what they what they did after that and what this means for them. But yeah, overall, I think it did feel honestly for I think for a lot of Cubs fans in general, I probably felt like a playoff series because it's close to a playoff series you'll get to this year. And the
Yeah.
White Sox got those big hits when they needed to get them, and they needed that. I mean, they were came in, I believe, they were struggling under 500. They this has helped them so far.
Yeah.
But no, I mean the White Sox pitching I think really stepped up. Also, I mean they really needed that as well. Those guys overall have been struggling when it comes to the pitching side of things. So yeah, the White Sox deserve that that sweep. They deserve the series win. And it'll be nice to play them in a couple weeks again. That Cubs White Sox series will be really interesting. All right, so we'll go into separate now. What they did after that. The Cubs went or stayed at home, I should say, and they played the Dodgers for 3 games, and they lost all 3 games. For that, just some notes on that series. Justin Steele got injured in Sunday's game. Marcus Stroman was scratched. He was sent to the injured list. So Justin Steele started, but again, just injuries, marred that game. And then also Frank Schwindel was sent to Iowa. Then he came back and then struck out 3 times last night in San Diego. But we'll talk about more about Frank the Tank in a sec. But yeah, that series against the Dodgers, man, it really just showed, how good that Dodgers team is,
Yeah.
and just how not good the Cubs are. And
Yeah.
it's just the really the contrast of offense is just seeing like where the Dodgers are now in every facet of the game, and
Mhm.
seeing where the Cubs are. It's just eye opening, really. Seeing Kershaw just dominate, seeing Bueller. It's always when you every time the Dodgers come in, you're always like, man, I really um you really want your franchise to get to where they are. They're always
Yeah.
a model franchise.
Yeah.
So, seeing that, and um I will say this too is like the Cubs hitting. Obviously, as you said before, you made a point in saying that they're overall offensive, like they're struggling offensively, and yeah, it's been a really tough go. I remember I feel like it was just yesterday. We were talking about them being in the top three for batting averages, and we said it then, and it was, that it was early, but it was a a bright bright sign for the Cubs in April. But they have
Yeah.
gone all the way down now to 15th in the league. They're hitting
Mhm.
234,
Yeah.
and they're probably going to continue to spiral down if they continue to struggle like this. Um, but overall, with the offensive approach, with just their offense in general, um, what have you seen that that's the most alarming? And then also on Frank the Tank, like, is this, you think this is the end for Frank Schwindel? Like, you think,
No.
or do you think he'll be able to find it?
Yeah. So I just think the Cubs are still pretty much trying to figure out who they are as a team, exactly what they want to do offensively. Um, this is the team that's really not built on power, and I think to a certain extent, we kind of still have that power mindset a little bit. As much as they've preached their philosophy as more of a base to base kind of team, I think a lot of people are still feeling the Javi KB Rizzo effect, Schwarber effect of guys who can put the ball over the wall pretty consistently and get the extra base hits. But the Cubs are a base to base team. Uh, they can't do more than they have to. They can't. We can't be swinging out of our shoes. We're just not that team. Doesn't make us less good. Doesn't make them less good than any other team in the MLB. Strategy is just different. But the Cubs is really their mentality should be, base to base, put the ball in play, hit it hard somewhere. You don't have to try to put the ball over the wall. As a hitter, if we're shooting for line drives, that's okay too. We don't have to shoot to always get a triple, always do more than we have to. I always preach to players that I coach is stay within yourself. And the big things that we always hear as players, less is more. So I'm watching Frank Schwindel, a guy who I love to watch. I remember I met him at a bar one time after one of the Cubs games last year. Such a down to earth dude. And I actually think that he's a really smart hitter, and he showed it last year. But I did kind of expect him to come back down to earth a little bit this year. Um, you know, Obviously this is kind of like a sophomore slump kind of thing. Once pitchers see you after a certain amount of time, they start to know your tendencies. And with all this technology and all the information in the MLB, you know, eventually people are going to start to get it. And I think that's what's happened with him. For him and who he is as a player, I do think he's actually a very valuable asset to this team. I hope he does put it together. I really do. Um, Love Alfonso Rivas, another great young first baseman. Um, but Frank Schwindel is just as important to this team as anybody else. Um, you know, I love what he brings. I love the positivity, the enthusiasm that he brings to the Chicago Cubs team, and I'm hoping he puts it together. Had another tough game last night. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets sent back down again. I'm hoping he does for his sake. Get out of the spotlight, get away from all the craziness of playing at the MLB level and go somewhere a little bit smaller, work on a few things, come back and kick some butt. That's what I'm hoping for Frank Schwindel.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why, baseball fans in general like the guys, because he's so relatable. And yeah,
Yeah,
he'll, after a game, where he get a couple knocks, he'll go to a bar across the street and just talk to fans. So that's pretty cool. So yeah,
yeah,
hopefully he finds it, just for for the sake of Cubs fans in general. I mean, you need everything you can get right now.
yeah,
Um, so this would be on Monday now. On Monday they took on the Padres for game one. They're gonna play them for 3 games.
yeah.
And we saw vintage Kyle Hendricks. I mean, the man went 8 2/3. He had a walk in the ninth that probably ruined his chances to to complete the game. He actually, they talked about it during the game. His lowest WHIP against any team in his career is the Padres at 0.96. He also
Amazing.
has a sub 3 ERA in 5 career starts at Petco. So he was awesome. And the thing was, that was great to see the Cubs actually win a game because they snapped a 5 game losing streak.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and when the show airs, Wade Miley will have made his Cubs debut on Tuesday, and I think that's going to be a big lift, regardless of how he does. I think
Yeah,
It'll help guys like Justin Steele. I think all the young guys on the staff in general will benefit from Wade Miley being on the team.
yeah.
So that'll be interesting. What do you see coming up on these series? We got the, Padres. They're for the rest of the way. They're obviously playing well. Cubs got the best of them on Monday, 6-0 in the win. And then we take on Arizona over the weekend. What do you expect in these two series?
You know, I'd I'd be surprised if we win this series. Pleasantly surprised if we win this series, just because the Padres are such a good baseball team. Um, really, really with a lot of when we play teams like the Padres, the Dodgers, my expectations really aren't too high. Um, for me, I'm just happy if they go out there and compete. Loved what I saw yesterday, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the Padres come back and take two from them. But I like Wade Miley on the mound. I think he's going to dominate. He's a very, very competitive pitcher. Hates coming out of games. I think he's going to battle. He's going to battle for this game. We'll see what happens with this series. Wouldn't expect too much out of it, but maybe they can pull off another win tonight, get the series win, and then take one tomorrow. And then when it comes to the Diamondbacks, I'm hoping we do take that series. I really do. That's a very beatable team. But they can say the same thing about the Cubs as well. I'm not going to say these teams are evenly matched, but they're very similar in multiple ways in terms of trying to find their identity, whether it's defensively or whether it's on the offensive side. Uh, you know, I think the Cubs should take that series. It is a little bit tougher when you're on the road, but the Cubs should be able to come out with the win for that one.
Yeah, no, in the NL West in general is really interesting just because all the teams are over 500.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, which is crazy to look at because the Diamondbacks are in last place, but they're 16-14.
yeah, yeah.
If they
Which
if
is
they yeah, if they sat in the NL Central, they'd be like third. So
yeah,
it's crazy. So but yeah, no, I mean, yeah, with those teams in general, like the Padres again, I do expect the same thing. I do expect them to win the next two, and then the Diamondbacks to challenge the Cubs, especially on the road. Yeah, like you said, it's going to be tough. Um, and then we're most likely, I'm not 100% sure, but most likely we'll face Merrill Kelly or Zach Gallen, and those guys have been pitching their butts off for the Diamondbacks.
oh
So
yeah,
um,
yeah.
it'll be interesting. I know that I think the Friday game's on Apple TV Plus, so the Cubs Apple TV
Nice,
Plus debut. Um,
nice.
all right, so shifting over now to the White Sox. They obviously took two games from the Cubs in that two-game sweep, and then they went over to Boston and they swept the Red Sox. Just some of those things, some of the things I saw in that series was, Vince Velasquez, that he's doing way better than I thought he would. The White Sox pitching has been, trending up. And even guys like Dallas Keuchel have been improving.
Yeah,
They did also welcome back Yohan Moncada over the weekend. Um,
yeah.
so when you see what they have done against the Cubs, what they did against the Red Sox, I think we said a little bit last week about how they could use these two series as, especially the Cubs one, to as like a jump off point, to
Hmm.
find their feet again.
Yeah.
In your eyes, are the White Sox officially back?
No, not yet. Um, we're talking about two beatable teams that they did play against. You use these series as kind of something to, like you said, jump off or build momentum off of. But when I look at the Sox play the Guardians last night, there are still a lot of issues that need to be addressed in terms of the defense. Um, how many more errors can you truly make? Every error is just giving the other team more of a chance. And with the amount of errors that the Sox have made this year, they're it's coming back to hurt them most of the time. It's not a lot of errors where nothing happens. These are very game costing errors that I'm seeing. So when I really think about these issues that need to be addressed compared to teams that are playing well, it's not going to work. This isn't going to be very sustainable throughout the year. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if they do finish over 500. They do make it to the playoffs, but you could do some of those things. You could still make it to the playoffs and still not have some of these issues addressed. So I am kind of worried about it right now when it comes to the White Sox. I'm hoping that they do clean up a lot of their things defensively because I think this is an amazing defensive team. I think Tim Anderson is just. I think that he maybe have a little bit of the yips right now when it comes to just forcing a play or rushing the ball out of his hand more than he has to. What I've always said about Tim Anderson, he's very good at getting rid of the ball quickly. So in a lot of plays, a lot of the great plays that he's made, he's not making the most flashy play in the world. But what we're seeing with Tim Anderson, historically, he's good at getting the ball out of his glove quickly and getting it to first. And what I'm seeing a lot of right now from him is kind of rushing too much as an infielder. Kind of, on certain plays, you kind of got to let the ball come to you if it's going to be a one hopper, or if the ball is slow, then you go get it. But finding that happy medium between a ball that's hit slow and a ball that's hit hard to you, you also got to know your runner. And I think this, as I'm watching Tim Anderson play, sometimes it just seems that he is just not taking the scenario into account sometimes, and it's just let me just get this ball and then just fling it over the first base. We'll see what Jose can do with that. And that kind of makes me nervous because he's way better than that. He's also one of my favorite players, so of course I'm gonna be very critical about him. Um, it's those offensive things that can really hurt because he is one of the main guys offensively on that team. His offensive side, obviously, he's the goat on that team, but defensively, the Sox have to address a lot of things. And same things with their pitching. You can pitch great against a team that isn't very good, but then once you face a team who is good, um, that's the real test comes in, and that is where I am. Still have a question mark with the White Sox.
No, yeah, you make a lot of good points, especially because yeah, defense is one of the most important things, and I think you see it on teams like, for example, like the Phillies, who banked on a lot of their offense, and they're struggling right now, and a lot of it has to do with not only their just their defense that that's not nowhere near you know playing well, but their pitching also is struggling. So yeah, with the White Sox, they've had a 1.63 ERA in their last 7 games, but yeah, they haven't the competition has not you know they haven't been great teams that they've been playing. Red Sox are also struggling. I believe they're fourth place in the AL East. So
Yep.
yeah, they still have a lot of a long ways to go. And the thing was is that even with that 6 game winning streak that was snapped on Monday night against the Guardians, they were still a few games back from the Twins. And those Twins just keep on going, man. And the thing is, even with Correa down, even when Correa was playing, he wasn't playing that well. He wasn't playing Correa baseball. So really getting being carried by the pitching guys like Joe Ryan. And also just Byron Buxton being MVP candidate. So it's going to be real. This AL Central, like we've said it multiple times that it's going to be fascinating to watch the whole year. For the White Sox in general, like I said, in their pitching has been trending up, but also a little bit of their hitting. Jose Abreu, he's had his 969 OPS his last 7 games. And for him, I believe we've also mentioned it before with his contract. I mean, he's got to hit, and the White Sox brought him back just for that reason. I mean, I think it's nice to have a guy like Abreu in the dugout in the clubhouse because he's been in the game for a long time. But at the end of the day, you want to be a World Series team. You want to start on a World Series caliber team. You got to hit. On Monday night against the Guardians, though, one thing I did want to talk about is Liam Hendriks continues to struggle. He had a couple of bright spots in the last few weeks, in closing out games without necessarily any run scoring or any problems. But man, it really all kind of his season was kind of summed up on Monday when he gave up a game tying grand slam with 2 outs against Josh Naylor in the Guardians. I mean, that was crushed, and it was a fastball high. That Naylor got all of it. And when obviously we talked a little bit about when before we coming on, but Josh Naylor's reaction in his second home run because he ended up hitting a home run in extra innings. Guardians ended up winning that game, 12-9, I believe it was. His reaction was awesome. Like
It
that's
was.
just like that. I mean, that's like I said, I don't think I've ever seen anybody that pumped in my life, bro.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I think the last time I might have gotten that pump was when I got a strike in Wii Sports bowling. That's probably the most pump I got. But that's because it never happens. I gotta get pumped, bro.
It's tough. I get it.
But nah, I mean,
He's worked hard to get back too from that injury
yeah,
that he had. So
yeah,
all
yeah.
those, and you look at that interview that he had after the game, all those emotions are coming out because, man, that's a career game.
But yeah, like the Liam Hendriks thing, man. It's just what like for him. Do you think it's gotten to the point where the White Sox are going to have to maybe consider getting getting another reliever, getting another elite reliever in the pen,
Absolutely.
come trade deadline, or do you think Liam's going to find it? With the contract he's got, you almost can't move him out of the closer spot. It's a little
Right.
tough there. Um, but what is your opinion? Do you think they're gonna let him see what he can do, or do you think they'll get another elite arm and maybe shuffle things around?
Yeah, I think you may be looking at getting another arm towards the trade deadline if he continues to struggle the way he does. I'm not saying move him out of the spot, but maybe get someone who supports him as well. He doesn't have to be in every single closing situation that comes up. I every time I think about Liam Hendriks, and last night was a very good example of him not making very competitive pitches, and like you said, leaving a fastball up. This is what's going to happen. The ball's going to get sent over the wall, and in my opinion, that's kind of been one of the Sox issues. Is not been it hasn't always been their stuff. Aside from what I think Dallas Keuchel, I don't think his stuff has been all that great. Not great enough to just lay it over the plate. But for the most part, a lot of these pitchers on the Sox have great stuff. A lot of great breaking pitches, fastballs with command. It's just location. That's where my issue comes in with Liam Hendriks is velocity doesn't guarantee you success anymore. It just doesn't. So when he is just laying balls over the plate, you can't really be surprised. I remember I was watching that at bat, and as soon as I saw that ball come out of his hand, I'm like, I might get squared up. And that's what happens. That's what's been a lot of his issues. Going forward is that he's making some competitive pitches. I'm looking right now. He has 20 strikeouts and 13 and 2/3 of innings. He's getting outs, but when he's not getting outs, it's very costly, and that is where I do worry about him, because he's just as effective as he was last year, but in terms of his strategy and where he's located the ball, that's what's changed, and that is what if I'm his teammate, if I'm Larusa, that does make me a little bit nervous.
No, yeah, and that's what I noticed too is the fact that he's getting a lot of whiffs. I mean,
Yeah,
he's got a high whiff percentage, but the thing is when hitters are getting contact, making contact, they're barreling up the ball. So
yeah,
and yeah, it's a 94% whiff rate. So with Liam Hendriks, I mean, yeah, I think ultimately it's like I said before, it's tough to move him around, but I think that the White Sox are gonna have to do something bullpen wise. Um,
yeah,
just to just to help them out. You got to do something.
yeah.
White Sox will get some reinforcements though soon. And I saw Rick Hahn said that Lance Lynn will be coming back as early as late May, but early June seems more realistic. Also, they take on the Guardians for it'll be 3 more games after Monday, 2 games when this airs. And then they take on the Yankees for 4. So it's a big week for the White Sox. I mean, really to see what last week did for them. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
Regardless of what happened yesterday, what happened on Monday, I should say, like they played a great game, just couldn't come out, with the win.
yeah.
But you know, playing these Guardians team, playing the Yankees team, I think it'll really show a lot of what type of team they are. What do you expect with this series, the rest of the series for the Guardians, and then them hosting the Yankees?
So with the Guardians in town, I still think that this series can go either way. I still do. Sox are still a very competitive team. Giolito on the mound tonight for them. I think it can still go either way. I think last night was kind of set the tone for these two teams, and the Guardians letting the Sox know, hey, we're coming here to compete. We are right in your face. We don't care what the media says, what anyone says. We're right here. We're right here. We're going to stay here as long as you guys allow us to. And so I think it's going to be real competitive. Going forward for the rest of this series, and with the Yankees coming to town, that's going to be the big test for them. That is Yeah, yeah. You got, in my opinion, the best team in baseball coming into town. Not and the hottest team in baseball, the most confident team coming into Chicago. That's going to be fun. That's going to be really fun. It's also going to be a big test. Um, Giving teams like that more and more chances, it's going to be the same result that they've been getting all year. All the Yankees are going to do is capitalize on those errors, capitalize on non-competitive pitches, taking bases, making bad throws back into the infield, which is ridiculous. What I saw last night is little things like that. You can't make those errors against any team, but with teams like the Yankees coming into town, you really just got to clean it up a little bit more, make sure you're on top of it a lot more. So Yankees are going to be a tough team. That's going to be a tough team for the White Sox to compete against, just because of who they are and what they're coming into Chicago with. And when I look at the Guardians, I still think it can go either way. I really do.
All right, now we'll take a trip around the league and look at what's going on in Major League Baseball and the rest of Major League Baseball. The Mets, honestly, man, you talked about the best team in baseball being the Yankees, and I agree with that. But a team right on, like, right behind them is probably the Mets, man. It's the team on the other side of town. I mean, they had that crazy comeback against the Phillies. Scoring, I believe it was 8 runs in the ninth inning when they were down 7-1 or 7-0, something like that. Ended up winning the game. Uh, Overall, with the Mets, you think this is something that, and we've talked about a couple times, seeing what things can, a lot of the stuff that can go wrong. But for them, what have you seen them like what has to continue to to happen for them to keep going on this streak that they're on right now?
They have to keep doing everything that they're doing right now for the entire season. Staying focused, staying together, competitive at bats, staying enthusiastic. Um, I love this. I love watching this team. I just love watching this team, and they really went to Philly and they went in there to compete. I am so happy. I'm so happy the Mets are competing the way they are. Lindor having a great year, and seeing Pete Alonso come up in certain situations and seeing him come through. I love seeing the pop off of his bat. He's one of my favorite players to watch. Uh, Keep it going, man. Stay healthy. Stay enthusiastic. Know who you are. Go into every stadium and know that you guys own the place. Man, it must be fun to be a fan in New York right now, a baseball fan in New York, because this is incredible. This is incredible, and I just want them to continue this as much as they can.
No, yeah, I mean, we definitely know how it is when the Cubs and White Sox are both good. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's really really awesome, and it's great for the whole city in general for sports. We'll go over now to the Mariners. Now the Mariners, they haven't gotten out to an ideal start. They're 13-17, but what's interesting to me and what I was thinking about over the weekend is just the emergence of Jp Crawford really coming to his own. I think he's the type of player that came up as a top prospect for the Phillies, and it just didn't work out. And last year we saw a little bit of what he could be, in the sense of his defense, his leadership. But now he's really he's hitting, and he's finding his way offensively. And then also on the downside, Robbie Ray hasn't done well for the Mariners in general. So it'll be something to watch out for, because the Mariners were a team that they lacked in the pitching side, but I think that if everything comes together, they're definitely a playoff team, especially with the type of offensive pieces they got. But also Winker just hasn't been hitting as well. What are some of the things that you've seen when you watch like a Mariners game? What are the things that are going well for them, and just from the stuff that hasn't gone well? What contributes to their 13-17 record?
Well, I think that they're actually a very solid team in terms of driving in runs. Not a team that's obviously going to blow someone away offensively, but even players like Eugenio Suarez, who's batting 200 right now, he's driven in 17. So I think that alone shows that they are still doing a good job of producing runs in some sort of to some sort of capacity. I'm looking at these stats as I'm talking right now. Tom Murphy, another good example of a player who's hitting for high average. And I think that, with that high average, just getting on base a lot. I know, there's it's very there's a lot of players on this team that maybe the common baseball fan isn't too familiar with, and that's okay. But this is a team that they're not going to blow you away offensively, but they are doing a good job of producing runs, drawing walks. Ty France, love it, love what I'm seeing out of him. He's just doing his job as a hitter, and I think he's kind of an underrated first baseman as well. So they're doing a good job offensively, in my opinion, still of just getting on base and driving in runs, whether that's a sacrifice fly, whether it's a guy on third and it's a ground ball to the first baseman or the second baseman, whatever, it's still an RBI. And then pitching wise, a lot of room to improve. A lot of room to improve for the Mariners pitching wise. But I think they're still right there. I do believe that they're right there still. And yeah, they clean some things up with their rotation and in their bullpen. I don't see a reason why they can't turn this around come as early as this month or June.
Yeah, no, they definitely have. It's the type of team that if they were to to unlock everyone that on their roster, then they would be very interesting to see how far they could get. Now moving on to the Cincinnati Reds. Now it's been really a rough start. It's probably an understatement for them. I know they were at 1.3 and 22. And I think since that they've actually gone. They've been trending up for as much as they can. I believe they were 3-1. They're now 6-23. So won back-to-back games. So it's at least that's something for them, something positive. But with a team that's struggling that bad, I mean they've gotten off to a historically bad start. And when you see teams struggling that bad, a lot of the things I hear is, man, this is bad for baseball. I mean, it's not something that you want to see in any sport. A team that bad. Is it something you think that could be solved with like when a team's that bad? Do you think it's something like the league's got to step in? Like, man, you guys got to do something like get this player. You got to do drop this player, whatever. Like, is it off to that point, or do you think that the Reds will still finish with not? I guess respectable record might be a little much, but you think they won't lose more than like 110 games?
Oh, whew. um, there's a lot of issues that have to be addressed with the Reds. It's just this doesn't happen very often for a team to start off this cold. But there's the pieces that they've put together after kind of jumping ship last year. It just hasn't worked. It hasn't worked at all. And it's a weird year when Joey Votto's hitting 122. That is very weird. I think this is just a team that is just not built to win. They're just not built to win. Period. I like that they went out and they got Albert Almora. He's hitting 375. Obviously, he hasn't had a lot of at bats yet, but defensively, he brings a very solid glove to that team, which is going to help too. I like Tommy Pham. I've always liked Tommy Pham. I've always thought he's a great leader for any team that he goes on. Very, very vocal. I think that's one of those pieces that you keep around. Jonathan India, I still think he's having a solid year. I know he's going through certain things with injuries right now. Overall, this team is just not built to really do anything, and these pieces just aren't going to work. Mike Moustakas is another player who I like a lot. I think he's very solid defensively and also another one of those leaders. But overall, this team is just not they're not built very well. There's issues with the management. There's issues with the management and the fans, the ownership of the fans. It's probably not very fun to be a Reds fan right now, but these years are going to happen. If the league steps in for the Reds, they better step in for other teams as well. Sometimes you just got to let certain organizations go through it. Maybe step in when it comes to, the management talking about how the fans are going to come back anyway, because where are they going to go? They got places to go. They 100% have places to go. Cherish the fans that are still showing up and are just supporting you. Um, don't take that for granted. Don't ever take that for granted. As a fan who's watching the game, who's already paying money to go, root for my favorite team, for you to think that I am just always going to be your pawn when it comes to money or whatever it is, no, it's not going to work. The Oakland Athletics are, in my opinion, they're playing pretty solid right now. They are struggling to get 5,000 fans in the seats right now. Don't ever take it for granted. That is where I think everything comes into play. When I look at the management, it's just better leadership. Give them better leadership. Give these players something more to look forward to. Same thing with the fans to look forward to. Change the tone of what you guys are doing, because right now it's not working. It's just not. So I think this is just something the Reds just have to work through this year. Maybe make some changes around the deadline. Maybe do some things now. Bring up some more young players. Kind of you just got to redefine yourself. That's the main thing what they have to do right now. It stinks, but these things happen, and just keep playing ball.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with a statement about what the management has said, and it's like that's not what you want to hear from management. I know I saw um a guy wearing a T-shirt the other day at the Reds game said "sell the team," and even I believe it was Josh India that took a picture with that guy and was like smiling and like thumbs up, looked like he was approving
Yeah.
that deal, but. Yeah, no, it's tough times for the Reds. If you have any Reds fans, check up on them, man. It's real tough times.
The tweets are hilarious, though. Keep those tweets coming,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
those memes are hilarious. I
I
am
know,
loving.
yeah. uh, Move on now to Madison Bumgarner against Dan Bellino, the umpire Dan Bellino. Man, that was So what happened there was Madison Bumgarner last week was coming off the mound, and like always, they check the pitcher's hands to see if they have any illegal substances or anything like that on their hands, and it was a really weird check. So usually it's like the most fastest thing I've ever seen, where it's like, oh, they check. It's faster than last year, obviously. So pitchers aren't, I feel like pitchers don't have that much of a problem this year compared to last year. But yeah, he checked Madison Bumgarner's hand, but literally as he was checking his hand, he's like staring at him, like as he's checking, like not even looking at the hand. He just keeps like filling up. It's really weird. He's filling up his hand and just
Yeah,
staring at Madison Bumgarner, almost almost like taunting him, or like I don't even know what
provoking
you
him,
want to
provoking
call
the
it.
heck out of him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And obviously Mad Bum, he took exception to that. And they got into a whole argument, and they had to hold Madison Bumgarner back. And what's funny on this whole thing is that Dan Bellino eventually apologized for what he did, saying how his actions were out of line, along those lines. He said that, something like that. But yeah, like the thing is, over the years, as a baseball fan, you watch those things, and it's like sometimes it looks like the umpires are just trying to test the players. It's like they
100%.
it's certain players too. Like for example, they know how Madison Bumgarner is, and maybe
Hmm.
they know the type of mental battles he's had with like Joe West and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
maybe they just have this distaste towards Madison Bumgarner, which again is not okay to do these types of things. What is your opinion overall on the situation? And then like that, I mean, you've in your baseball experience, have you ever had an umpire try to test you like that, or do you think it's one of their motives?
Yeah. So when it comes to that, I think it's good. Props to Dan Bellino for taking accountability for it. I don't really remember how many umpires are really taking accountability. I remember, what was it, the Cubs in 2018, 2017. There was a call that they got wrong on a foul tip from Curtis Granderson, and an umpire came out and said, "Hey, we got that one wrong." But yeah, I wish, I'm very vocal when it comes to umpires. I'm also very vocal when it comes to the right things that they've done. There's a lot of good that they've done for this game. But in general, these fans don't come to the game to watch them. We just don't care. It's different from me as a player. You do kind of want to get to know the umpire. You kind of want to know the strike zone. You kind of want to know the personality of X, Y, and Z, whoever's on the field. But some of these umpires have major egos that they have to just check at the door. Just leave it at the door, man. Like there's so many situations. You can just look up videos on YouTube of umpires that are just way out of line, just provoking players in every way possible. And as soon as a player reacts, the player's wrong and they get thrown out of the game. Um, I don't get it, man. I don't. I never got it. And 100% have I had umpires who have tested my patience for sure as someone who's a very patient, enthusiastic player. Yeah, absolutely. I get it. They have a job to do, and I respect everything that they are doing. But in certain cases, they're wrong. They really are wrong. You got guys who've worked their entire lives to get to the MLB, guys who are playing for their lives. Um, of course, some players are going to get upset if you do make uh, a wrong call against them, or if you're unjustly targeting them. This is their opportunity. This is what they've been working their entire lives for. They didn't work their entire lives to meet Angel Hernandez behind home plate. They did it. Um, they care about this game. They care about their teammates. They want to perform well. That passion is going to come out if you do something wrong. Sometimes some of these umpires just it's probably never going to be like this, but sometimes you got to wear it off the chin and just let them vocalize to you how wrong you are. Shut up. Just listen. Just listen sometimes. You if your strike zone is off or whatever the case may be, please learn from it, because it is, I don't want to say it's hurting the game, but it does hurt the players who are playing in the game, because they're the ones being impacted. They're the ones who's being called out on a bad strike three call, or thrown out of a game for a bad call that the umpire made. They're getting penalized for that, getting thrown out of the game. Plus, the play was against them. I don't know. I know they're protected by the union. I know we talked about it, which is good. I just hope that there's more accountability. Someone has to step in. The commissioner, someone has to step in with these umpires. Let them know, hey, we got to be better. We just have to. And certain rules with maybe replays in the infield. I know you can't challenge a foul ball if it's in the infield, if it's fair or foul. Unless it's in the outfield. I know you can't challenge balls and strikes. How much longer are we going to keep doing that with them? With how they're managing, how they're making these calls? How much more are we going to leave it up to them? You know what I mean? So I just it's clear that I'm very passionate about this, just because as a player, I care about other players. I care about watching every player do well, and I care about the umpires doing their job well. That's what I care about. I think the MLB does have to be better with that.
No, yeah, I mean it's just another distraction. It just adds to the stress of being a player. I can only imagine
Yeah.
that you have to think about that part of the game more than you should. Yeah, so hopefully, umpires learn from Dan Bellino, and more. There's, like you said, more accountability. That would be really good to see overall.
Yeah.
Not just in that capacity of like angering players, but just in general of like doing your job and doing it well.
Hmm.
So, uh, a couple other notes. MLB is returning to London. They're planning to get games there in 23, in 24, and 25. Really wanted to get your take on this, man. Like overall, like you think not necessarily is it making a difference, but what positive signs have you seen or heard of as you obviously play overseas? You play in Israel later this year. So what type of things do you see, and do you think that London is the right spot, or do you think maybe they could benefit more playing, I don't know, in France or Italy, Germany, and stuff like that?
Yeah, you know what? I do think London is the right spot for now. I think you actually just made a good point, where I think if they maybe expanded as well to Germany, which actually there's a lot of baseball in Germany. I played there a few years ago. It is incredible. It is very competitive. I remember, just I was in Nuremberg playing there. So much fun, beautiful fields, and those surrounding countries as well, like Switzerland, who was getting more into baseball. And when I played there, they're just as invested in the game as we are. The guys who are playing. It's not as much of a foreign sport as it used to be there. So seeing the MLB go closer to those regions of the world and expanding the game there as well would be very beneficial. Um, Baseball overseas is beautiful. It really is. It really is beautiful. They are playing in other places just because of how much they love the game. And they admire American players. They admire, the American culture of baseball, um, and how much of a melting pot the MLB really is. I'm hoping that it isn't just London going forward, and they look into other places as well, maybe like in Italy, most definitely Germany. I just the more that they show that outreach to these other countries that are showing interest in baseball here, the better. 100% the better. Um, I have nothing but great things to say about playing overseas, and I look forward to going to Israel and playing there. Um, when I played in Germany and Switzerland, it was so much fun. It was the most fun I've ever had. And shout out to the Swiss national team and the Bern Cardinals. I love those guys. So much fun, so much fun. And maybe I'll be back with them one day for a few games. But yeah, so much fun. It'll be huge. It'll be huge for baseball.
Yeah, what's cool too is seeing Chicago teams get involved. I know the Cubs were supposed to play there in 2020
Yeah,
against the Cardinals, which was obviously scrapped for obvious reasons. So yeah,
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see if the Cubs or Sox could get out there, and get in that game. So I'd be get in those games, I should say. And also the last note I wanted to say was Mike Trout with his home run yesterday on Monday night became the all-time leader of home runs at Angel Stadium with 161. This is a building that opened in 1966. Um, I mean, there's not much to say because we've said it all. I think with Mike Trout. But what type of what do you think? Just in general, what do you think about that? I think it's a crazy stat, dude. Like that's
yeah,
like you're the leader of that stadium's been around for a while, and I feel
yeah.
like Mike Trout's been around for a while as well, but like 10 years, but it doesn't really feel like that, right? It's like I feel like he's been in the league for a little bit. I mean, yeah,
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, right? What can we say, right? I mean, we've said it all with Mike Trout.
We've said it all. For me, that's Mr. Baseball. That is Mr. Baseball. How he plays the game. He just goes about everything so well. Um, that says a lot. That says a lot about how much he loves being an Angel. That says a lot about how comfortable he is playing at Angel Stadium. This is a player he goes about the game the right way, and there's a reason why so many people admire him. And I know he's very near and dear to Angels fans, and pretty much the city of Los Angeles and baseball in general. He really is a national treasure for the game. So not too surprised when I hear that stat. It's just awesome to watch. It's been so cool to grow up with this player right here, and just to see him, uh, you know, sprout the way he has. It's been so cool. So I love hearing stuff like that. He's just a leader. He's just a leader for baseball. He's an ambassador in his own right. He doesn't do a lot of social media. He doesn't do a lot of commercials. He's not the most flashy guy. But he's one hell of a baseball player, and that is what people notice, and that is what people will always associate him with, is being a good ball player, being a great, incredible ball player. So I love hearing stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's good to see that. Good to see the Angels at the top of the AL West.
Yeah,
And only half a game. And the thing was, I was looking at when I was looking at the standings yesterday. I'm like, it's cool to see the Angels up top of the AL East race is going to be crazy. But the teams that are in second place of those two divisions, the Rays and the Astros are, they continue to win games and continue to be on that team's back, like really close up there. I know the Rays are 2.5 games back of the Yankees, and the Astros are just a half game back of the Angels. But as we said before, it'll be if you're a baseball fan, you've got to be pulling for those Angels to see Trout, to see Otani in the playoffs. That would be out of this world, man. I mean, that would be
Oh my
baseball needs
gosh.
that so much. The best player in the sport needs to be in the playoffs. So
Yeah.
hopefully, they can keep it going, and get Trout and Otani there because that would be pretty sick.
Yeah.
So that's a good way to end things tonight, talking about the best player in baseball. I know it's going to be an interesting week for the Cubs. They got Arizona at the end of the week. See what they could do in Arizona against those Diamondbacks. And then the Yankees coming to town to take on the White Sox. That'll be a playoff caliber series.
Absolutely.
A big test for the White Sox.
Yeah.
So hopefully the Chicago teams can get those wins, get those series wins. I am Saul Rodriguez for Miles Porter. Thank you for watching the At Bat Baseball podcast, and have another great week, everyone.